The year is 79 CE. Emperor Titus stands at the edge of the Forum in Rome, watching citizens hurry about their business. The Roman Empire stretches across 3 continents, governing nearly 70 million subjects through a complex system of provincial administration. A messenger arrives with news: Mount Vesuvius has erupted, burying Pompeii and Herculaneum. Titus immediately diverts treasury funds for disaster relief, appointing recovery committees and personally traveling to the affected region. Fast forward 1,943 years. In the ethereal realm where great leaders of history gather, 5 titans of governance sit around a marble table, their expressions growing increasingly disturbed as they observe scenes from modern leadership crises flickering before them like reflections in water. Outrageous, thunders Cyrus the Great, founder of the Achaemenid Empire of Persia. In 539 BCE, when I conquered Babylon, I freed the Jews from captivity, allowed all peoples to practice their religions freely, and established the world's first charter of human rights. Yet today, I witness leaders using division as a tool of governance rather than unification. In life, Cyrus had built the largest empire the world had ever seen by 530 BCE, stretching from the Mediterranean to the Indus River. Unlike many conquerors, he was known for respecting local customs and religions, creating standardized weights, measures, and currencies, and establishing a sophisticated postal system that connected his vast territories. Your methods of inclusive governance were indeed revolutionary, Cyrus, nods Queen Hatshepsut Talaka of Egypt, who ruled from approximately 1479 to 1458 BCE. As a woman ruling in a time of male pharaohs, I had to establish legitimacy through achievement, not merely inheritance. I restored trade networks, launched ambitious building projects, and maintained peace. I did not waste my reign with petty feuds or empty rhetoric. She points to the vision before them, a modern press conference where a leader deflects responsibility for a failed infrastructure project. I commissioned hundreds of monuments, including my mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. I sent trade expeditions to Punt that brought back exotic goods never before seen in Egypt. I did not blame my predecessors when challenges arose. I solved them. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor from 161 to 180 CE, strokes his beard contemplatively. Perhaps the most concerning pattern I observe is the abandonment of Stoic principles in leadership. During my reign, Rome faced a devastating plague, wars on multiple fronts, and economic difficulties. Yet I maintained that a leader must remain virtuous even when others are not. Today's leaders often mirror the worst behaviors they once condemned in their rivals. The philosophical emperor had indeed written his famous Meditations while campaigning on the northern frontiers, creating a text that would influence leadership thinking for millennia. Despite personal tragedy and constant crisis, he remained committed to reason and virtue in governance. Their strategic thinking lacks patience and perspective, adds King Leonidas Nolan, who does not need to remind his companions about his legendary last stand with 300 Spartans at Thermopylae in 480 BCE. Though historically his forces included several thousand Greeks initially, his tactical decision to hold the narrow pass with a small force allowed the bulk of the Greek forces to retreat and ultimately defeat the Persian invasion. At Thermopylae, we understood that sometimes a leader must make personal sacrifices for the greater good. Today's leaders often do the opposite, sacrificing the common good for personal gain. Emperor Wu of Han China, reigning 141 to 87 BCE, has been quietly observing until now. His 7-decade life transformed China, expanding its territories, establishing Confucianism as state doctrine, creating the Imperial University, standardizing weights and coinage, and launching the Silk Road trade network that would connect East and West for centuries. In my 54-year reign, I learned that effective governance requires both vision and meticulous attention to systems, he says. I did not merely issue edicts, I built institutions that outlasted me. The Imperial University trained officials based on merit, not family connections. Our standardized coinage facilitated trade across vast distances. Today, I see leaders dismantling institutions rather than improving them, thinking only to the next election cycle rather than the next generation. The leaders grow increasingly agitated as they observe modern governance failures flickering before them. Look there. Cyrus points to a scene of a modern nation abandoning international agreements. When I conquered territories, I honored existing obligations. My cylinder, discovered in Babylon in 1879 by archaeologist Hormuzd Ras-Sam, proclaimed my respect for local traditions. A leader's word must be unbreakable, or their authority becomes meaningless. Hatshepsut nods in agreement. Diplomatic reliability was essential to Egypt's prosperity. My expedition to Punt, modern Somalia and Ethiopia, established trade relationships that lasted generations. We exchanged goods, not insults. The detailed reliefs at my temple depicting these trade missions still survive after 3,500 years, testifying to the importance we placed on international relations. Marcus Aurelius rises from his seat, pacing in frustration. What troubles me most is the abandonment of philosophical principles in governance. During the Antonine Plague that killed millions, including my co-emperor Lucius Verus in 169 CE, I did not deny reality or seek scapegoats. I faced the crisis with rationality. I wrote that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Today's leaders see impediments and simply retreat to comfortable facades. King Leonidas pounds his fist on the marble table. And their military reasoning. At Thermopylae, we made our stand knowing the strategic value of delay, the importance of terrain, and the power of disciplined forces fighting for a cause they believed in. Today, nations commit troops without clear objectives, waste resources on weapon systems designed to enrich contractors rather than win conflicts, and fail to care for their veterans. Emperor Wu turns their attention to another scene, a government paralyzed by partisan divisions. In 124 BCE, I established the Imperial University specifically to create a professional civil service bound by Confucian principles of duty and moral conduct. Officials were selected through rigorous examinations, not personal loyalty. This system, which lasted over 2,000 years until 1905 CE, prioritized competence and ethical behavior over factional allegiance. I observe modern governments where expertise is dismissed as elitism and loyalty to a person supersedes loyalty to principles. As the ancient leaders grow increasingly distressed, their conversation turns to the specific failures they find most alarming. Environmental negligence, says Hatshepsut firmly. In ancient Egypt, our entire civilization depended upon understanding and working with the Nile's annual flood cycle. We developed nilometers to measure the river's rise, built irrigation systems to distribute water, and maintained religious practices that reinforced respect for natural balance. Today's leaders ignore mounting evidence of climate disruption, prioritizing short-term economic gain over long-term survival. Information integrity, adds Marcus Aurelius. As emperor, I recognize that decisions are only as good as the information they are based upon. I surrounded myself with advisors known for their honesty, not their flattery. The Stoic philosophy I practiced demanded rigorous examination of facts and rejection of emotional reactions. Now I witness leaders who deliberately spread falsehoods, attack sources of reliable information, and make decisions based on what they wish were true rather than what is. Cyrus the Great identifies another critical failure. Religious and ethnic tolerance. When I conquered Babylon in 539 BCE, I freed the Jews from captivity and allowed all peoples to worship according to their traditions. This was not merely moral, it was practical statecraft. Forcing homogeneity breeds resistance, respecting diversity builds loyalty. Yet today, leaders exploit religious and ethnic differences to consolidate power, treating pluralism as weakness rather than strength. Strategic foresight, says Emperor Wu. During my reign, I commissioned the historian Sima Qian to compile comprehensive records of China's past, understanding that knowledge of history was essential for future planning. I established the Silk Road not merely for immediate commercial gain but as a long-term geopolitical strategy that would position China at the center of a vast trade network. Modern governance seems trapped in perpetual present tense, unable to learn from the past or plan for the future. King Leonidas, ever the military strategist, focuses on a different angle. Alliance management. At Thermopylae and the concurrent naval battle at Artemisium in 480 BCE, the Greek city-states, often bitter rivals, united against a common threat. We understood that sovereignty sometimes requires strategic cooperation. Today's leaders frequently undermine the very alliances that multiply their power, misunderstanding independence as isolation. The 5 leaders fall silent, watching scenes of modern governance failures with expressions ranging from disappointment to fury. Finally, Cyrus speaks again. Perhaps we should consider what guidance we would offer, were today's leaders able to hear us. First, says Hatshepsut, build for posterity, not popularity. My mortuary temple still stands after 3,500 years because it was constructed with future generations in mind. Every policy should be judged not by tomorrow's polls but by how it will be viewed a century hence. Second, adds Marcus Aurelius, cultivate personal virtue as the foundation of public service. As I wrote in my meditations, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. B1. Character matters more than charisma, substance more than style. Emperor Wu continues, third, build systems, not cults. My civil service examination system lasted 20 centuries because it was institutional, not personal. Strong institutions staffed by ethical professionals protect nations from both external threats and internal corruption. Fourth, says Cyrus, embrace diversity as strength. My empire spanned dozens of cultures, languages, and religions. Rather than forcing homogeneity, I allowed local governance according to local customs, united by common infrastructure, currency, and legal protections. Unity requires neither uniformity nor unanimity. King Leonidas concludes, finally, prepare for challenges not yet visible on the horizon. The Persian invasion had been years in the making before Thermopylae. The leaders who prepare only for today's battles will surely lose tomorrow's wars, whether those battles are military, economic, environmental, or technological. As their council concludes, the ancient leaders watch modern scenes with a mixture of frustration and hope. They recognize patterns they've seen before, the rise and fall of powers, the eternal struggle between self-interest and common good, the tension between immediate gratification and long-term prosperity. Perhaps we expect too much, sighs Marcus Aurelius. As I wrote, how quickly all things disappear, in the universe the bodies themselves, in time the memory of them. Perhaps it is the nature of humanity to learn the same lessons repeatedly. No, responds Hatshepsut firmly. We built monuments, recorded histories, and established principles precisely so future generations would not repeat our errors. We must believe in the capacity of humanity to learn and grow. The fundamental principles of effective leadership have not changed in 3,000 years, says Cyrus the Great. Truth, justice, moderation, courage, foresight, and wisdom were virtues in my time as they are now. And the consequences of their absence remain equally devastating, adds Emperor Wu. As their council disperses, the ancient leaders return to their eternal vigilance, watching, judging, and perhaps, in ways we cannot perceive, still influencing the present through the timeless wisdom they left behind. Their legacies continue not merely in crumbling monuments and faded texts, but in the very concept of what leadership at its best can and should be. In the words Marcus Aurelius left for future leaders, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love, and to lead with wisdom.